subscribe and click the bell icon to turn on notifications.
Hi everyone, welcome to a new tutorial from Simon Says It. In this video, I'll show you how to fix the spill error in Excel. The Excel spill error, commonly referred to as a spill error, is a very common problem affecting users who use the Office 365 versions of Excel. In this tutorial, I'll walk you through some important methods to troubleshoot this error. But before we do that, we need to first understand what spill means in Excel and what is exactly causing the problem. The latest version of Excel in the Office 365 subscription comes with a set of formulas that support dynamic arrays. This means that these formulas can do multiple calculations and return multiple values at the same time, unlike a normal Excel formula. In case there are multiple results, they are filled up in the adjacent cells to the formula cell. This is called spilling in Excel. So now, what causes the spill error in Excel? In most cases, the reason is very simple. Some values might already be present in the spill range of a dynamic array function. This will create a conflict and Excel will alert you with a spill error. But in some cases, the reasons are not so obvious. There might be other reasons as well, like invisible values blocking the spill range, dragged formula blocking the spill range, or unsupported or improper use of dynamic arrays, etc. You have to look at each such error carefully to determine what is causing the problem. Let us now see how to fix the spill error in Excel. To fix it, first identify the error message displayed by clicking on the yellow warning triangle inside the error cell. In the next section, I'll walk you through each of these error messages and teach you how to tackle them one by one. First, if the error message in the spill range is not blank, it means that some value or formula is obstructing the spill range of your dynamic array formula. To fix this error, clear the entire spill range after the dynamic array formula, or move the dynamic array formula to another location. If the spill range is visibly clear but still causing the spill error, click on the Select Obstructing Cells option below the error message. This will highlight the cells that are obstructing the spill range. Delete them to remove the error. Next, if the error message is spilling inside tables, it means you have inserted a dynamic array formula inside a table. Please keep in mind that dynamic array formulas are not supported in Excel tables. To fix this, either move the formula to another location or format the table as ranges. If the error message is spill range contains merged cells, it means that one or more merged cells are obstructing the spill range. To fix this error, unmerge the merged cells or delete them. If you cannot visually locate them, click on the Select Obstructing Cells option to select them. Now, if the error message is spill range is unknown, it means that you are using a dynamic formula inside another dynamic formula like this. Here, the first dynamic formula cannot determine the size of the spill array returned by the second dynamic formula. In other words, the second dynamic formula is volatile. To fix this problem, you have to replace this volatile function with a better alternative or find some other way to do the task without using it. If the error message's spill range is too big, it means your dynamic array function returns a spill array whose length extends beyond the edges of your Excel spreadsheet, 1,048,576 rows. This can happen due to many reasons, but the usual cause is a poor choice of formula, where the columns are used as references instead of ranges of cells. To fix this, either use ranges or cells as references inside the formula. But note that this will make the dynamic array formula into a normal formula. To keep using the dynamic formula, just use an implicit intersection inside the formula by inserting an @ sign in front of the column reference that is causing the problem. An implicit intersection is a fancy way of asking Excel to force multiple values into a single cell value. This will usually fix the error if the spill range is too big. That's all, folks. In this guide, I've covered everything you need to know about Excel spill error. If you have questions about this or any other Excel feature, please let us know in the comment section. We are always happy to help. Thank you. Hi everyone, welcome to a new video from Simon Says It. In this video, I'll show you how to fix the name error in Excel. Errors in Excel can be quite frustrating, especially if you don't know what is causing them. The name error is even more confusing since it's one of the most common types of errors you'll encounter in Excel. The name error occurs if Excel is not able to recognize any particular entity inside a formula. It can range from a simple typo in the formula's name to complex causes like invalid named ranges. In the next few minutes, I'll show you how to identify these name errors and fix them on the go. The occurrence of the name error in Excel can be traced back to these 4 primary causes. We'll take a look at them one by one and see how to fix them easily. Reason 1, misspelt formula. This is the most common cause behind the name error in Excel. For example, if you accidentally misspell VLOOKUP, Excel will immediately pop the name error message. To correct this, simply replace the wrong formula name with the correct formula name. Reason 2. Improper range usage. In case you are using range references inside your formulas, you have to be careful to avoid name errors. Any improper range reference will trigger the name error in Excel. For example, if you refer to the range B2 to B20 without a colon in between, it will give rise to the name error. Replace all improper usage to clear the name error. Reason 3. Misspelled named ranges. Similarly, if you have accidentally misspelled a named range, expect a named error to show up immediately. To avoid this, correct such wrong instances and be careful while referring to them in the future. Also, be wary of using local named ranges. That is, named ranges can either be local, that is, valid inside one worksheet only, or global, that is, valid in all worksheets. If you accidentally refer to a local named range that is not present in your worksheet, you will face the name error. Open the Name Manager using the Ctrl plus F3 shortcut and cross-check the scopes of all named ranges. Reason 4. Text not in quotes. In Excel, when you want to refer to any text string, you have to enclose it inside 2 double quotes. If you don't do this, Excel will mistake the string for a formula or a name range and will throw up a name error. Also, note that you have to use the normal straight double quotes to refer to text strings. In some cases, you might accidentally use smart quotes or curly quotes instead of straight quotes. Excel will return the name error since it cannot parse these smart quotes. Keep this in mind while referring to text strings inside formulas. Now that we know how to troubleshoot each type of name error, let's look at how to avoid them in the first place. Tip 1. Take help from formula suggestions. Excel has a very powerful formula suggestion feature. When you start typing in your formula after the equal to symbol, Excel will automatically start suggesting suitable formulas and their respective syntaxes. Please pay special attention to these suggestions and double-check if your formulas are in accordance with the syntax. Interestingly, if you happen to have named ranges in your sheet, these will also appear in the suggestions. This will make it easier for you to enter formulas without errors. Tip 2. Use the Formula Wizard. Use the Formula Wizard if you're still not familiar with any syntax. You can access this by clicking on the FX icon right next to the formula bar. Enter the formula name in the Insert Function box. This will take you to the Function Arguments dialog box, where you can enter each argument separately. Now Excel will hold your hand and help you out in filling all the arguments. Tip 3. Identify all the name errors in one go. In some cases, you may want to quickly identify all the name errors in an Excel worksheet. To do this, please follow these steps. Select the data where you want to scan for errors. In the Home tab, click on the Find and Select under the Go To Special section. Select the Errors option under the Formula section and click OK. This will highlight all the errors in the worksheet. Please note that this is not specific to the name error. In case you want this to be specific, follow these steps. Press the Ctrl plus F shortcut to open the Find and Replace menu. Type in name ? In the Find What section. Click on Options and set the Look-In option to Values. Click OK. This will list all the causes of the name error and you can start resolving them one by one. That's all, folks. We hope you find this troubleshooting tutorial helpful. I have covered all of the possible ways to fix a name error in Excel. Please let us know which tip helped you the most. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask in the comment section. We are always happy to help. Thank you. Hello everyone, welcome to a new tutorial from Simon Says It. In this video, let us see how to convert formulas to values in Excel. In some cases, you might need to convert the formula to static values for ease of operation and better functionality of the workbook. Let us get right into it. The first way to convert formulas to values in Excel is by copying and pasting them as values. Select the cell or group of cells. Next, copy the selected cells by right-clicking on the selected cells and selecting Copy. When pasting, right-click on the destination cell and paste them as values, V. This pastes the copied values with formulas as values. When you click on the pasted cell, only the values show up on the formula bar. To convert the cells with formulas to values using the function key, first select the cell. Press the function key F2 to enter the edit mode. Once you press F2, the formula shows up in the destination cell place. When you enter the edit mode, the formula shows in both the cell and the formula bar instead of the value. Now press F9 to permanently convert the formula into a value. Another effective way to convert formulas to values in Excel is by dragging and dropping the cells. First, select the cells you want to convert to values. Move the cursor to the edge of the selected cells. You can see the default mouse pointer turn into the four-sided pointer. Now, right-click the selected cells and drag them to the desired place. You can either drag or drop them at the same destination or move them to another destination. Once you let go of the right mouse button, a dialog box opens. Select Copy Here as Values Only from the dialog box. In some cases, you might want to keep the formulas as such and have the converted cells with the formulas into a new cell or worksheet. Using a Power Query can help you convert the formulas to values onto a new worksheet. To create a Power Query, first select the cells. Then navigate to Data. Under the Get and Transform Data section, select from Table/Range. This opens up a Create Table dialog box. Click OK. This opens the Power Query Editor, which shows the selected cells converted into values. Click on Close and Load. Once you click on Close and Load, a new worksheet is created in the existing Excel workbook, and all of the selected cells with formulas are converted into values. These are some really helpful and effective methods to help you convert formulas to values. Thank you. Hello everyone, welcome to a new tutorial from Simon Says It. While using Excel, you will be dealing with lots of data in text and number formats. Sometimes text and numbers may get accidentally intertwined, making it hard for Excel to differentiate the numbers from the text. This causes some errors and issues when using functions like sum and round since they only work on numbers. Excel throws an error in case of such exceptions. To avoid this, you need to convert the numbers formatted as text back to numbers. In this video, I will show you how to convert text to numbers in Excel in 5 easy ways. First, let us see how to convert text to number using the drop-down button. When a number is indicated as a text, it can be seen with a green flag towards the left top of the cell along with an exclamation mark notification. If you see this, you can easily convert a text to a number by clicking on the drop-down to the right of the cell. Click on the drop-down and select Convert to Number. When a text is converted to a number, the values appear to the right of the cell. Next, let's see how to convert text to number using the Text to Column option. Select the column which contains the numbers as text. Click on Data and select Text to Column. Click on Finish. This converts your text to numbers. Another easy method to convert text to numbers is by using the Paste option. Enter 1 in any of the cells. Right-click on the cell and click Copy, or you can use the keyboard shortcut by pressing Ctrl+C. Now select the cell. Right-click on the cell and select Paste Special. This opens up a dialog box. In the Paste Special window, select All and select Multiply. Click OK. Since we are multiplying the text by 1, the text gets converted to a number and returns the same value. You can also convert a text to a number by using certain functions together. Enter the function in the cell where you want the text to be converted as a number and enter the cell number in the parentheses. This converts the number into a new cell. You can use the drag handle to apply the function to other cells. Now, once they are converted, you can copy the formatted numbers and paste them to their dedicated places by clicking on Paste Special and selecting Values. By using mathematical operations on a text, you can convert text to numbers. You can operate with 0 while adding and operate with 1 while multiplying or dividing. To convert a text to a number using arithmetic operations, enter the arithmetic operation in the destination cell. For example, to convert the text to a number, multiplying any value by 1 gives the same value. This way, the values get converted from text to numbers. Knowing how to convert text to numbers in Excel is essential for using some functions in Excel. Hope you learned how to convert text to numbers in Excel in 5 easy ways. Please leave your thoughts or queries in the comments section below. We are always happy to help you. Thank you.
In this very quick lesson, I just want to show you how to deal with numbers in your worksheet that have been stored as text. And again, this is something that can happen, particularly when you're importing your data. So let me just show you a quick example. I'm going to scroll across just to a blank column outside of our data. Now, if I have a column, such as column P, and it's formatted as text, which it is just here, if I then try to type a number into this cell, so let's just say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and hit enter, you can see a couple of things here. Firstly, I have that little green triangle in the top corner, which denotes that there is an issue or some kind of problem with this cell. And also notice that the number is aligned to the left-hand side of the cell. And in general, anything that's aligned to the left is text, whereas numbers are always aligned to the right. So I can see that this has incorrect formatting. So if you import a data set and you find that you have columns where you've got numbers, they're all aligned to the left and they have these little green triangles, then you're probably going to want to deal with that and convert them back to numbers. So I'm just going to auto-fill this down just to add a few more numbers in. You can see that they all have these weird green triangles. Now, there are a couple of different ways that we can deal with columns that look like this. So if I select all of these numbers, notice at the top I have this little warning symbol. Now, if I click it, it's going to give me an idea as to what this little error message or what this warning triangle is trying to tell me. And you can see at the top here, it's telling me the number is stored as text. So something super simple that I can do is simply highlight all of the numbers and go to Convert to Number. Immediately that error disappears and you can see that those numbers are now aligned to the right-hand side of the cell. Now there is another way that I could deal with this, so let's Control Z to go back a stage. I could also use a formula to convert everything back to a number. And the formula here that we want to use is simply called value. Let's open the bracket, select the cell we want to convert, hit enter, and we get exactly the same result. So you can utilize either of these methods in your spreadsheet and make sure that all of your numbers are being stored in the correct format. So now we know what a named range is, let's look at the different ways that we can create them. Now what we're going to do here is basically what I showed you in the example in the previous lesson. We're going to create named ranges for all of the columns that we have in this table. And I want the named ranges to be called whatever the column heading for that particular column is. Now by far the simplest and quickest way to name a range is by using the name box. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select the range of cells, click up in the name box, and then give my range a name. So this is going to be called orders. Now it's really important when you're typing in names for your ranges that you don't have any spaces in the names. Now, my range is just one word, orders, but if I wanted to call it order numbers, for example, I wouldn't be able to put a space in there and type in numbers. That's not going to work. I would either need to type it in as order numbers, all one word, or I need to separate the words with an underscore instead. So just remember that when you're naming your ranges. Also really important to remember to hit the Enter key to set that named range. So that is the first method you can use. The second method you can use is to select the range of cells that you want to name, including that column heading, and then on the Formulas tab in the Defined Names group, use the Create from Selection button. Now what this will do is it's going to create a named range for you, and it's going to name the range based on the values in whichever row or column you specify. So because I've highlighted the top row, I want it to name this range based on the value in the top row. So that is customer. Let's click on OK. And if you want to check to make sure that your named ranges are setting effectively, you can click the drop down and you can see them listed out here. The next method you can use to create a named range is to click on the Name Manager button. And notice this has a keyboard shortcut of Control plus F3. So if we jump into the Name Manager, this is basically where we come to manage all of our different named ranges. And you can see in there the two named ranges that I've currently set up. What I can also do is create a new named range from here as well by clicking the New button. I can give my range a name, so let's call this range Quantity. I want it to be available in this workbook. I could add a comment if I wanted to, and then I select the cells that this range refers to. So that's going to be these cells just here, and click on OK. So now I have 3 named ranges created. And then the final method I can use to create a named range is the Define Name option in the Defined Names group. Again, I can just give my range a name. So this one is going to be price per unit. Remember, we're separating with underscores. And then I can specify which cells this range refers to. So that is my cell range E4 to E17. And another thing to note about these named ranges is take a look at the cell references. They're all absolute by default. And this is a really important point when it comes to using your named ranges in your formulas. So I'll talk more about this at a later stage. Let's click on OK. And now I have 4 named ranges set up. Let's do the final one. And I'm just going to do this using the Create from Selection method. And now I have all of my named ranges created. So that is it. Those are the 4 different methods that you can use to create named ranges.
Hello everyone, welcome to a new tutorial from Simon Says It. In this video, I will show you how to calculate subtotal in Excel. Subtotal is a function in Excel that helps you to calculate the average, sum, product, and other functions for the elements in the table. In this article, I will show you how to use the subtotal function in Excel in 2 methods. First, let us see how to use the subtotal function from the main menu. Select the cells of the table. Right-click and select Sort. You can select ascending or descending depending on your preference. Once the changed values are grouped together, we can now calculate the subtotal. Navigate to Data. Under Outline, click on Subtotal. This opens up a new subtotal dialog box. In the At Each Change In dropdown, select the option which you have grouped together or categorized in the rows. This is where the subtotal function performs on similar data. The second option is the Use function. We know that the subtotal function houses a variety of operations like sum, count, average, product, etc. You can choose your preferred operation from the dropdown. Finally, in the Add Subtotal to dropdown, Select the column you want the function to act on. Now click OK. This gives you the subtotal and the grand total for the selected value. While projecting data, you might not want an extensive report containing all the elements. In such cases, you can use the 1, 2, 3 buttons or plus/minus symbols to show or hide the data. Another way to arrive at subtotal in Excel is by using a formula. Enter the formula in the destination cell. Once you enter the formula, Excel automatically shows the suggestions for the operations that you want to perform on the data. From the drop-down, double-click or select the preferred function and press the Tab key. This adds the function argument you want to perform on the data. While entering the operating parameter for the subtotal formula, you might wonder why there are two sets of operations with the same name. The first set of operations, 1 through 11, is used to calculate the values presented in the table even if they're visible or hidden. The second set of operations, 101 through 111, is used to calculate any visible values. They ignore the values that have been hidden manually. Now for the range argument. You can either enter the range or select the range and it will get populated. Press Enter. This gives you the subtotal of the data in the table. That is all, everyone. In this video, we saw how to calculate subtotal in Excel using two easy methods. If you have any queries, please leave your thoughts in the comments section below. We are always here to help you. Thank you.
Before we begin, it's important to understand spills and arrays because this is probably going to be new terminology for you. In Excel, formulas that return multiple values will spill these values directly onto the worksheet. Now, that might not make too much sense to you at the moment, so let's take a look at a couple of examples. So I'm going to show you an example of just a regular formula first of all, or a standard formula. So in this first little table, we have some employee names. And what I want to do is I'm just going to return their department from this little table that we have over on the right-hand side. So what I could do here is just a very simple VLOOKUP. So we're going to type equals VLOOKUP. Our lookup value is going to be the employee name. We're going to look up that value in this table over here. And you can see that because I've named my table employee location, that's what I'm getting in the formula as opposed to the cell references. I need to provide the column index number. So what information do I want to return? Well, I want to return the department, which is column number 2. And am I doing an approximate or an exact match of the lookup value, the employee name? Well, I'm doing an exact match, so I can put 0 or false on the end here. So I'm just going to go with 0. Let's close the bracket and hit enter, and it pulls back IT as the department. And what I can do here is just drag this down to fill out those other departments for the rest of the employees. Now, this is what we call a standard Excel formula. When we construct it, the answer just appears in one cell. And if we want to copy that to other cells, we have to use our fill handle or other methods in Excel in order to do that. Dynamic array formulas work in a very different way, which you're going to see in a moment. Before we get on to that, let's just take a look at one other type of formula, and that is a CSE array. And this might be something that you're already aware of. The CSE part stands for Control-Shift-Enter. Because it's always been in Excel, if we want to perform multiple calculations within one formula, we need to press Control-Shift-Enter to make that into an array formula. And this is something that historically many people have found quite confusing. So let's have a look at a CSE array so you can understand exactly what they do if you're not sure. Now in this little table, we just have, again, some basic products. We have the quantity that's been sold and we have the price of each of those products. So if I want to find out what the overall total is of all of the products This would involve two different calculations, because I need to multiply the quantity by the price for the first product, and I need to do that for all of these different products, and then I need to do a sum calculation to add up all of those totals. Now, we could do this calculation all in one go using a CSE array. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to say equals sum, and all I would need to do is select all of the quantities multiplied by all of the prices. Now, in order to get this to work and to calculate correctly, we would need to make this a CSE array, which means we need to press Control-Shift-Enter and not just Enter. So let's do that, Control-Shift-Enter, and we get our total. So CSE Control-Shift-Enter allows us to combine multiple calculations in one formula. And another thing with these CSE arrays, you can always tell if you do have a CSE formula, because if you look at the formula bar, you'll notice that your formula is encased in these curly brackets. So that tells you that it's an array formula. Now, bearing in mind both of these examples that we've looked at, this is going to give you a better understanding of how spills work with dynamic arrays. And what I'm going to show you is a very basic example of a filter dynamic array. Now, I am going to move through this section fairly quickly, but don't worry if you're not really understanding what I'm doing, because we do have an entire lesson dedicated to this filter function a bit later on. And we'll go through it slowly and we'll break it down. Really, what I'm trying to get you to understand in this lesson is just the concept of how spills work. So what we're going to do is we're going to return the employee, the department, and the block from this table depending on what we have selected in column K. So we're going to use one of the new dynamic array formulas, and that is filter. So let's type it in. We need to select our array, which is going to be everything in this table. And then I need to tell Excel what I want to include. So I'm just going to filter for all of the employees in the marketing department. So we're going to select the department array, and that has to equal what we have in cell K4. And that's all I'm going to do. There are lots of other things we can do with filter and lots of other arguments we can use, but just for this basic example, let's close off our bracket and hit enter. Notice the results spill into multiple cells. So I don't just have one formula in one cell like I did when I was doing the VLOOKUP. And this is effectively a CSE array because I'm performing multiple calculations in one formula, and the results have spilled down into multiple cells. If I was to change this department to, let's say, sales and hit enter, those results will update, so everything is fully dynamic. And if we click in our results, notice that we get this blue border around the outside. This is effectively showing us what our spill range is. That is the terminology. And this spill range will expand and contract when necessary when new values are added or removed. So if I was to add another name to the bottom of this table, everything should update. So let's do that. I'm going to go down to the bottom here. Let's just add Adam Lacey, and we're going to put him in sales. And what we should see is that this employees table will update. And there we go, he's added on to the end. Let's put him in the East block, like so. Let's take a look at a couple of other examples of spills. I'm going to jump across to the spills worksheet and notice that we have a little table just here. And that's just listing out some first names and some last names of different employees. Now notice that the first names are in lowercase and the last names are in what we call proper case. Now I want everything in this first name column to be in proper case. And I also want to sort this list of names into alphabetical order A to Z. So the first thing I'm going to do here is put this data into a table, Control T. Let's click on OK. And I'm going to change the colors because those aren't particularly nice. Let's just change those to a purple color. Now I'm not going to name my table for this example. We'll just leave it on table 2. And let's tidy up this data. So we're going to combine two things here. We're going to use another new dynamic array called sort by, and we're also going to make that first name column proper text. So let's type in proper as well. And we're going to select everything that we have in here. Close off our proper. I'm now back into my sort by formula. So I can choose which column I want to sort by. So I want to sort by the last name, comma, and do I want to sort in ascending or descending order? Well, I want to sort in ascending. Close off sort by, hit enter. Now take a look at those results. It's converted that first name into proper case. The results have spilled across both columns, and it's also sorted the list by the last name A to Z. Now, one other thing to notice is if you wanted to go in and edit this formula, if I click in a cell down here within the spill range, note the formula is kind of grayed out in the formula bar. You always must go to the first cell that contains the formula in order to edit it. Then you can double click and you can make your changes. Now, one other thing to note here is if I then wanted to do something like maybe a count on these names, let's type in count A. I'm going to select everything in this table. Notice what Excel does. Take a look at that notation. It's put a pound or a hash symbol in there. And what that basically tells us is that we're referencing a dynamic array. Now, if I was to press enter here, I'm going to get a result of 22 because it's counting each of these individual items. Now, that wouldn't be what I would want in this case. I just want to know how many members of staff we have. So I could go in here and I can do a divided by 2, and that's going to give me the correct result of 11. Now, what about if I was to add more names to this table? And you'll notice at the bottom here, I just have a little list. So let's drag this up. And because our original data is in a table, that table is going to auto-expand to accommodate those new names. But take a look at what's happened just here. We now have a spill error in column D. Now, why do we have that? If we click on it, take a look at the range. If you look at the blue lines around the outside, you can see that because I have another table underneath, there isn't enough room for these results to spill down. So this can easily be fixed simply by moving this table out of the way. So if we pick this up and let's just drag it over here, now I get my spill results. Also notice that my count has updated as well. So everything here is completely dynamic. So that's kind of how spills work. Hopefully you can now understand that and see the difference between just a standard formula, CSV arrays, and dynamic arrays. The filter function is another brand new dynamic array in Excel 2021 that allows us to filter our data based on criteria that we specify. And we're going to be taking a look at the filter function over the next few lessons because there's lots of different ways that you can use this function. So let's start out in this lesson by understanding simply what the filter function does and how it might be useful. So on the left-hand side, I have a reasonably large table. And this table just shows a list of students. It shows the exam that they took, the grade that they achieved, and also the date of their exam. And what I want to do here is create a few different filters so that I can get a list of the students that match that criteria. So maybe I want to filter for all students that sat a specific exam, so maybe the French exam. Maybe I want to see what exams occurred on a very specific date. Or maybe I want to see all of the students who failed the exam, so I can send out letters inviting them to resit the test. I can do all of this using the filter function. Now, before we get into the actual filter function, we're going to do a couple of things to make our life easier. The first thing we're going to do is, you've probably guessed it, we're going to put our data set into a table. Control T. Yes, my data has headers. Let's click on OK, and let's immediately change that table style because it really is not very nice. And I think I'm just going to choose no table style. I'm also going to give my table a name. So we're going to call this exam results and hit enter. Now, the next thing I'm going to do, just to make my life a lot easier, is I'm going to create a data validation drop-down list so I can easily select the exam from a list as opposed to having to type it into cell F4 each time. So we're going to utilize our unique function to get a unique list of all of the exams, and then we're going to use that list in our data validation. So let's click on a cell that's kind of out of the way. We're going to say equals unique. Let's select our list of exams, Control-Shift, down arrow, close off the unique function, hit enter, and now we have a unique list. Now, I don't want these to have the unique formula underneath, so let's do Control-C, and our little paste special trick, let's paste the values directly over the top. So now I have this list, I'm going to create a data validation drop-down so I can simply select them from a list. So up to data, we're going to go into data validation. We're going to create ourselves a drop-down list, and the source is going to be this range just here, and click on OK. So now that makes it a lot easier for me to switch between the different exams. Now I'm going to do exactly the same for the dates and also the grades. The process is exactly the same, so I'm going to do that off camera. Join me back here in a couple of seconds and we'll continue on with the filter function. So now I have my 3 data validation drop-down lists. Now, one thing I did when I was creating a unique list of the grades, to get them to display A, B, C, D, E, and then fail, I combined unique with sort. So I'm going to get you to have a go at that. We've seen how sort works and we've seen how unique works. So see if you can get these to list out in exactly the same way that I have. Now I'm going to leave date and grade blank at the moment and just focus on the exam. So I want to use the filter function to first of all show me all of the students that sat the maths exam. So we're going to type in equals filter. Now filter has 3 arguments and the last one is optional. Now the array, again, the array is the information that we want to return. Now we want to return student, exam, grade and date. So we need to select all of our data. Control, Shift, down arrow to select that entire range, comma. Now this is where we specify our criteria, so what we want to include. What is our filter? Well, our filter is the exam column, maths. So what do we want to include? Well, we want to include the exam column, Control, Shift, down arrow, and that needs to equal whatever we have in cell F4. So at the moment, that is maths, comma. The final argument, which is the optional argument, is if we want to specify some text or something if it doesn't return any results. So in general, I tend to put in quotation marks, no records if it can't find anything. Close the bracket, hit enter, and like magic, we now have a list of all of the students who took the maths exam. Now, once again, column K doesn't have any formatting applied, so let's change this to short date format. So now, if I was to change this to French, that list is also going to change. So it makes it very simple for me to filter those results. Now, currently, we're just filtering by one piece of criteria, and that is the exam that the student sat. But it might be that we want to filter by 2 pieces of criteria, so maybe the exam and the date, or maybe 3 pieces of criteria, the exam, the date, and the grade. It might be that we want to see a list of all of the students that sat the science exam or achieved a grade of A. And this is where we start to build in logic to our filter function. And that's exactly what we're going to explore over the next 4 lessons. We're going to build in logic, and I'm going to show you all of the different operators you can use to really refine your filter results. But in its most basic form, that is how the filter function works. Pretty straightforward. Now, if you're wondering about these columns over here, which have the data that we used to create our data validation dropdown, if you want to hide those, that's perfectly fine. We can right click, select hide, and that just removes them from view. In the previous lesson, we saw how we could use the filter function to filter data based on logic. And we use the plus operator to do an OR logical filter. So we were filtering for all students that sat the maths exam or achieved a grade of C. So now let's take a look at using the asterisk operator. Because effectively when we use that, we're doing an AND logical formula. So for example, I might want to filter for all students that sat the French exam and achieved a grade of D. And this works pretty much in exactly the same way, we're just changing the operator. So let's jump into cell H4 and type in equals filter. The first thing we need to choose is the array. So we want to return everything, the student, the exam, the grade, and the date. So we need to select all of the information in the table. Remember, Control, Shift, down arrow to select everything. Comma. What do we want to include? Well, we're going to include two pieces of criteria again, and each piece of criteria needs to go in brackets. So the first thing that we're filtering for are all students that sat the French exam. So we need to select the exam range, Control, Shift, down arrow. That needs to equal whatever we have in cell F4. Let's close the bracket. Now we want to apply our asterisk operator because we want to say and then we can specify our second piece of criteria. So our second piece of criteria is the grade. So we want to select the grade range, Control, Shift, down arrow, and that needs to equal what we have in cell F12. We can then close the bracket. Now the final thing to specify here is what we want it to display if it doesn't find any records. So again, we're going to say no records and put that in quote marks. We're going to close off our filter, hit enter, and take a look at that. Immediately, I know that we have no students that sat the French exam and achieved a grade of D. So what about if we start changing some of these things? So let's go for grade E. Now I can see 3 students who sat the French exam who achieved the grade of E. What about if I change the exam to maths? We have 1 student who got an E. Now remember, if you want this table to dynamically update, you need to make sure that your original data is in a table itself. Now currently, my data isn't in a table. How can I tell that? Well, when I click inside the data, if we take a look at the ribbons at the top, I don't get my table contextual ribbons. When you're clicked inside a table, you will see a table design ribbon at the top. So let's press Control T and put this data in a table. Yes, my table has headers. Let's click on OK. And once again, I'm going to change this to no specific format. Now, if I was to go and add a name onto the end here, my filter isn't going to update because I'm currently using a very specific cell range, A4 to D41. So I would need to really redefine my arguments for this particular formula. So let's delete it out, and I'm going to give my table a name. So on the Table Design tab, let's call this, we'll just call it Students. Now, if we then do our filter again, our array is the entire table, and notice now it's picked up the name of the table as opposed to the cell range. Then we specify what we want to include. So let's open our bracket. We're going to select the exam range, and that needs to equal what we have in cell F4. Close the bracket. We're doing an AND, so we want an asterisk in here, and then we can specify our second piece of criteria. So that is going to be the grade, Control Shift down arrow, and that needs to equal whatever we have in cell F12. Let's close off our criteria. Let's specify what we want it to say if it doesn't find any records, and then close off our filter. And if we hit enter, we get the same result. Now the difference here is that if I go and add another student to the end of this table, I should find that my filter formula updates. So I'm going to add another student that sat the maths exam and achieved a grade of E. Currently, we only have one result. I would expect this to change as soon as we add somebody else. So I'm just going to add my name to the bottom here. And maths, we want a grade E, and let's just say the 8th, 2022. So if we scroll back up now, you can see that that's automatically added that to my results. So once again, I hope you're taking note of the importance of putting your data into an Excel table if you want everything to dynamically update.
If you're not a subscriber, click down below to subscribe so you get notified about similar videos we upload. To see the full course that this video came from, click over there. And click over there to see more videos from Simon Says It.